Hey everyone, this is a quick look at multiplying decimals. So you'll notice in this first example I've written out here, I haven't lined up my places. So you know that when we're adding and subtracting decimals, we make sure any decimal points are lined up and our places are aligned here. And when it comes to multiplying with decimals, it actually doesn't matter. And instead what we'll do is just always have all of our numbers kind of lined up on the far right here instead. So just making sure each number ends on that side, because we'll multiply very similarly to how we multiply regular whole numbers. So we start just like with a regular multiplication problem. We can at first kind of ignore this decimal, and we're just going to multiply as if this were 391 times 6. So we start by multiplying 6 times 1, which is 6. We multiply 6 times 9, which is 54. So we write our 4 here, bring the 5 above our 3. And then we multiply 6 times 3, which is 18, and add the 5, which gives us 23. Okay, so now we need to account for that decimal. And what we'll do is count the total number of decimal places we have in this problem. In this case, we have 2 decimal places. So we need to have 2 decimal places in our answer, which gives us 23.46. Another thing that can help us make sure our decimal spot or our decimal place is in the right spot is to multiply, or rather to estimate here. So we have 3.91 being multiplied by 6. We can round 3.91 to 4, and 4 times 6 equals 24. Now 24 is definitely close to 23.46. So that tells us our decimal is in the correct spot. Whereas, for example, if you had solved this problem and you said your answer was 234.6, looking at your estimate, you could probably realize you'd made a quick mistake and need to move your decimal here to make it close to 24. So let's practice another one. Let's try 3 times 0.016. So we'll go ahead and write this one out. 0.016 times 3. 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. 3 times 0 is 0, and 3 times 0 is 0. Again, we'll count the total decimal places we have in this problem. So that's 1, 2, 3. So we need 1, 2, 3, making our answer 0.048. All right, let's look at another one here. This time we're going to multiply 2 decimals rather than a decimal and a whole number. So we'll do 4.8 times 7.2. Let's go ahead and start with a quick estimate here. 4.8 would round up to 5, 7.2 would round down to 7, and 5 times 7 equals 35. So our answer should be somewhere near 35. So now let's go ahead and multiply. 2 times 8 equals 16. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Have our 0 here. 7 times 8 is equal to 56. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 5 is 33. So now we can add these products together. 6 plus 0 is 6. 9 plus 6 is 15. 1 plus 3 is 4. And we've got 3. Again, we look at the total decimal places we have. So we have 1 decimal place here, another here, so that's 2 decimal places. So we need 2 decimal places. Our answer is 34.56. And again, we can check that with our estimate of 35, and that looks like a pretty good answer there. All right, let's look at another example here. So now we're going to have some practice with multiple operations. So this question says, what is the value of 2.44 times, remember that when we have something in parentheses right next to a number, that's telling us to multiply. So 2.44 times 4.5 minus 3.175. So because this subtraction problem, 4.5 minus 3.175, is in parentheses, we're going to start there. So we start with our subtraction. 4.5 minus 3.175. We need 2 zeros here. Now we can't subtract 5 from 0. And there's nothing here from this 0 to borrow. So we'll start here with the 5. We're going to regroup, so that becomes a 4. And now we have 10 here. We regroup that, which becomes 9. And this becomes 10. So we have 10 minus 5, which is 5. 9 minus 7 is 2. 4 minus 1 is 3. And 4 minus 3 is 1. Decimal stays in the same place. And now we can multiply 1.325 times 2.44. So again, we're not worried about making sure these decimals are lined up when we multiply, but instead just having our numbers align here on the right side. So now we can multiply. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8. We add another 2, that's 10. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Now we're moving on to the next one, so we bring this 0 down. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13. And 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. We're done there. Now we need 2 zeros. And 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 2 times 3 is 6. And 2 times 1 is 2. Finally, we add our products. We have 0, 0, 3. 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 5 is 13. 5 plus 1 is 6, plus 6 is 12. And 1 plus 2 is 3. Now, this is not yet our answer. Now we need to place the decimal point. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decimal places. So we need, in the product, 5 decimal places. So our final answer is 3.23300, or we could just write 3.233. Finally, let's look at a quick word problem. A sand volleyball court is a rectangle that has a length of 52.5 feet and a width that is half of the length. So the width is 1/2 of our length of 52.5. And the question says, in case of rain, the court is covered with a tarp. How many square feet of tarp are needed to cover the court? So we are looking for the area here. And the area is equal to the length times the width. Now, we know that the width is half of the length. And we want to remember that word of reminds us to multiply. So we are looking at 1/2 of, or 1/2 times 52.5. Now, I want to remind you, right? We know 1/2 as a fraction, but we also know that is equal as a decimal to 0.5. So we can go ahead and multiply 52.5 times 0.5. And we have 5 times 5, which is 25. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. And 5 times 5 is 25, plus 1 is 26. And then 0 times 5 is 0, 0 times 2 is 0, and 0 times 5 is 0. So we add, and we have 2 decimal places. So our answer would be 26.25. So that is our width. That tells us how wide the court is. And now that we have the width, we can find our area. 52.5 times 26.25. So we can go ahead and multiply that. Oops, I'll write this another way. Writing with our larger number on top just makes it a little easier. And now we can go ahead and multiply. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 1 is 31. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 3 is 13. Now we move on. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 2 plus 1 is 5. 2 times 6 is 12. And 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Finally, we have 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 1 is 31. And 5 times 2 is 10, plus 3 is 13. So now we can add. We have 5, 2, 1 plus 5 is 11. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 1 is 7, 3, and 1. Now, we have 3 decimal places, so we need 3 decimal places. And the total square feet of tarp that we would need in this case would be 1,378.125.